know it's early.
Cause I went to one concert down there, man. Them seats so tight, man. Close, man.
So, I mean, she's been getting,
Somebody want to get out, you got to get up, man.
yeah, oh, yeah.
You can't like slide sideways, let them out.
There was a hypo.
Cause I always get an
And
in.
then,
Yeah.
oh, I do too.
Yeah,
Take the
I
same
would go to
question.
the bathroom.
Change it. I got long legs.
Yeah.
I want
Bam,
Because
bam.
every time I stretch my legs out,
Yeah. So,
And they gave her insulin. And she's not diabetic, so I mean, there, you know, lots of things that were taking place going on.
When they talk
You, or did you read the Arkansas Business where
your liver gets
that little guy over in California got Walmart for a few $1 million for them
insulin.
went up to
down like very rarely does that happen. But
forgot.
there's also something
I bet he did.
found
Better not forget again.
their attorney
Potassium
to Walmart for absolutely wasting time and dragging things out. And once paid
acidic.
Sorry, lost some numbers. Who is this?
it's pending.
The neutralizer.
Here's what doesn't make sense. Surely
She's still a little bit flaky,
I hope for his own.
nearly like what she was.
No way.
That's
Fox
scary.
says,
5 minutes.
Yeah.
we're litigating this more than I've litigated.
Yes, it is.
Things that, you know,
Like I said, we thought we were making pretty good progress.
Sometimes
on the other hand,
get a new
surely
phone.
he's not doing
They
this.
switch. I've lost pictures.
But I'm religiously about
Well, it's
Let's call the regular monthly meeting Planning Commission to order for May 25th. Mr. Neri, any announcements?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, Monday is Memorial Day, the 29th. At 10 a.m. at Lake Willistine, there will be a memorial service at the Veterans Memorial. Attend if you can. Also, I would like to thank State Representatives Mark Lowry and Doug House for attending this evening. State Representative House was more than a little instrumental in the constitutional amendment that we'll address tonight as part of this amended ordinance that you all have been studying for the past month. Both he and State Representative Lowry helped me a great deal in preparing this with City Attorney Norris for you to pass on to the City Council. I want to thank them for attending tonight very much.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
I have my thanks, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. We'll hear from you probably a little bit later. All right, next item is the approval of the minutes. You all got a copy. Is there any additions or corrections to those minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those yes?
Yes.
Opposed? Same vote. That passes. We'll open, we have no public comment for non-agenda items. We'll open the public hearing portion of the meeting at this point. We have no old business. Going straight into new business, Mr. Neri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For ease and lack of confusion in talking with Mr. City Attorney, though these are both amendments to two different sections of Maumelle Code, they'll be made in one motion and passed on to the City Council that way because they're in one ordinance. Specifically, that involves Section 94-1, which is our definitions. We're adding dispensary and cultivation facility. And of course, that comes right out of the constitutional amendment that you all have been studying, as I said. Along with that, we have 94-323, our district use regulations, where we will allow cultivation facility and dispensary in a C1 zoning district. By doing that, it allows that in all of our commercial zoning districts, C1, C2, C3, C4, and PCD. Staff will recommend for a due pass recommendation of the Maumelle City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Neri. Any questions by commissioners, staff? Hearing none. Mr. House, Mr. Lowry, you took some time out to come. Is there anything you'd like to come forward and say along the lines? You would just come forward and so we can get it for the record. Name and address, please.
Thank you, Douglas House, State Representative, District 40. I looked at your ordinance. It looks to me like you got a good idea of the way things are going. I'm here to answer any questions, not give you any advice about what you ought to do or not ought to do, and that's your attorney's business, not mine, and your staff's business. But I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
As I understand it, there's only so many of the dispensaries and cultivation sites that will be available for the state. How many would be in this local area?
There's no telling at this point. The amendment that was drafted by the people and passed by the people, not by me, I want to correct any misconception about that. I didn't draft the amendment. I fought it. I gave money against it and spoke against it. Still passed. But the amendment allows up to 8 cultivation facilities, and the Medical Marijuana Commission, MMC, has authorized 5 to begin with. That leaves 3 to be awarded at some other point in time if they think it's necessary.
Now, is that
30
statewide?
Statewide. 40 dispensaries, and they've authorized 32. That means they have 8 that they'll award at some future point in time. They have to begin accepting applications July the 1st. Just from the nature of the beast, they're going to have to, in public, just like when you're in a public meeting, sit down and review every application. And I know more about the selection process for the cultivation facilities than I do about the dispensaries. I'm not so certain they have that settled yet to everybody's satisfaction. It's a work in progress. The cultivation facilities is going to be like selecting a contractor. They're going to look at qualifications across the board, make sure they meet certain standards. You'll find that in not only the state law, but also some federal laws. And if they meet all those qualifications, they'll look at their business plan, their financial plan, their staff, who they're hiring, people like that. And then they'll award those licenses based on their judgment as to the best qualified people to deliver the product to the people. And so those 8 will come first, then followed by the dispensaries would be I mean, they can do it all simultaneously, but I don't see that happening. I think they'll want to get the cultivation facilities licensed and up and running, because they're not going to have any product to sell if they license dispensaries until that's done. You can't import it from out of state, so that's where we're at.
Now, on the cultivation facilities, do you know at this juncture whether they're attempting to locate them in different parts of the state, or is it just whoever comes in and they could all be in one spot?
Just from nature of my office, I have talked to lots and lots of ventures, whether corporations, partnerships, or individuals that are seeking permits. I've talked to probably representatives from 25 or 30 groups, and I know there are more out there that have not talked to me. They are in the process now of hammering down and refining their selections of locations. And talking to several of them, and I think they're representative of all of them, is they go and talk to, if they want to locate in a city limit, they're going to talk to the mayor, and they're going to talk to the police chief. If it's out in the county, they're going to talk to the county judge and the sheriff, and probably selected members, if the county judge recommends it, of the justices of the peace, the quorum court. Because their attitude is, if you don't want us here, that's fine. We'll take our 100 jobs and go somewhere else, because there are counties and cities that do want us. And so under the amendment, the only way they can be, quote, run out of town is if the people initiate an amendment, get the signatures, put it on the ballot, and vote them out. A city council can't. A quorum court can't. But then look at it this way. The dispensaries are going to be investing somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 to $2 million to put up one of those kinds of locations. And a cultivation facility, low side, I've heard $2 million. That's way underfunded. More reasonable, probably $7 to $10 million to get the greenhouses built, the security, the irrigation, the processing facilities, all this that's got to be built from scratch. Most of it's going to be greenhouse type operations. Some people may buy a building and put up grow lights. That's old technology at this point. It's very expensive, even with LED lights don't work too well, they tell me. And so it'll probably be greenhouses. They like a combination, these plants like a combination of sun and artificial light. And they have to be able to shut off all lighting for like 12 hours at a time sometimes in order for these things to develop. All I know is what I'm told, and never done it myself, so I had to unlearn everything I ever knew prior to last year. And and learn everything all over again. And it's been an eye-opening experience. So if you've got any preconceptions it's going to look like an opium den or something like that, you're just flat out of date. It's very sophisticated business now in 28 states, and the facilities are very clean, highly secured, well-regulated, the medical facilities. And the dispensaries look like, Caleb and I were trying to think of a good example. Look like a high-class beauty salon. You'll have products on the shelves. Let me describe one that I know about because I've kind of taken a virtual tour online. It's one in Chicago. You're met by a maitre d' who checks to see that you have a card. They buzz you through a first security door. Then someone inside checks, gets on the computer, makes sure your medical card is valid. If it is, they buzz you through a second security door. You look at samples of the different products that this organization has for sale. You say, I want this one or that one. You tell the clerk. They buzz the order back through a secured wall, which then comes forward from, quote, the back, and you deliver it to the customer, and then they're allowed to pay and leave. Very, very secured, if you show up at the door, you don't have the right card, your card's invalid, you've got a bunch of hangers on, you're not going in, or they're not going in. And so it's pretty sophisticated. It's I saw another video of one in Las Vegas. The casinos haven't got anything on this place. I'm not talking about flashing lights and signs. I'm talking about just very high-class operation. So that's what this business looks like. If you ever get a chance to go out in one of the states, maybe you'll get a chance to see one. I haven't seen one personally myself. So.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioners, any questions?
Couple questions. Thank you for coming, by the way.
Sure.
For taking time out. What do you think the overall timing of when the regulation will be complete, when the first license will be issued for both cultivation and dispensaries?
With the caveat of understanding, you're asking me what somebody else is going to do, so I don't know.
Understood. To your
Best
estimate.
guess. I think that they'll have all of the applications in probably by August the 1st. I think it'll take them 2 months to review them. Some of them they're going to call immediately for one reason or the other. And then they'll review them, and I think that'll take about 2 months. So that'll put them awarding process maybe by 1st of December. Is an estimate. The facilities, the cultivation facilities are going to take anywhere to 2 to 4 months to build, depending on how they decide to do it. And the growth rate on the product's 3 months. I was predicting next March 18, the first product will become available for sale, but it could slide 2 or 3 months past that very easily.
But regulation allows for these dispensaries to transport medical marijuana in from another state, correct?
No.
It all has to be grown here.
It has to be grown here. There's no process. Matter of fact, that some of the federal regs say in order to have a, quote, well-regulated state operation, so the Justice Department doesn't become involved, is that you can import it or export it across state lines.
So, but the application for Arkansas is that this dispensary, if you will, I'm just trying to figure out the chicken and egg here. So the cultivation facility has to come first before the dispensary comes first, correct?
Exactly.
In the state law here. At any
Dispensaries may grow up to 50 plants, but they've got the same sort of build up and ramp up and growing period ahead of them if they decide to grow some of their own product. And from those folks that are in this business, they say 50 plants is nothing. It wouldn't even, if every dispensary grew the maximum number of plants and kept them in constant production, they would not meet 10% of the customer demand. So yeah, it's a very small amount. You don't get a lot of weight off of one of these plants because after you pull the moisture out of it, you're left with real dry stuff and doesn't carry very much weight or volume.
In your review of these similar types of facilities, was there any paraphernalia sold along with this dispensary, such as would be common?
Different
use,
different states have done it different ways. We passed a bill at first over my objection, and later on I think I see the wisdom. I do see the wisdom of the legislation. They can't sell smokable paraphernalia in their stores. They may sell vaporizers or something like that. Now, the easy step around is you open up a shop right next door. Sure. And so it's an easy workaround. But the idea, I think, is they don't want folks smoking it on the facility. That's not going to happen. These operations they don't do that. Now, other places in the country where they have adult use or recreational use, yeah, sometimes that happens. You go overseas, you see it. I did see it in Holland.
So the regulation as it's currently written is that they will not be able to, I guess, partake in the product in the dispensary itself.
That's correct. They're expressly prohibited from doing that or allowing it.
I guess my question to you, Jim, if somebody comes to us, are they required to produce this license? They can't come in and say, we're going to open up a dispensary without producing this license demonstrating that they're able to do what they do, or
Yes.
conditionary?
Correct.
That's correct.
They may come to the mayor and city council and the police chief and say, we have found a piece of property. It looks ideal. Mark and I were talking about it earlier. I really don't think you'll see one in a strip mall type setting, although in some cities they do. The security requirements, the barriers, there are federal standards on these barriers. They have to block entry for like 15 minutes to get the police. They have to have monitoring systems, security systems, be 24-hour monitored, that kind of thing. And so you're not going to find that kind of environment in a strip mall, but you'll find them in a good example of what one might look like. Take our Starbucks down the street, one of my favorite, or McDonald's. That's the kind of operation you look, except there's not going to be any flashing lights, no signs, no gummy bears dancing across the screen, anything like that. All of that's prohibited. Very low key. They'll have a sign out front, but that's about it. That's all they'll be allowed to have under the current regs.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions? Lowry, would you care to add anything since you did take the time to come, which we appreciate you coming?
Mark Lowry, 229 Summit Valley Circle. I really have nothing to add. I just wanted to be here in curiosity, because I know you've just heard from the man. Doug has done an excellent job of vetting the various legislation that came through and making sure that it complies with the amendment and the will of the people. And I know it's been, as he said, it's been a task that he may not have desired because of his feelings about it, but it had to be done according to the law. And I know that you've really given it a lot of attention. Jim and I have talked about the task that you have in coming up with this, and appreciate how serious you've taken this. And anything I can do to help you along the way, please call on me.
Any commissioners got questions? Thank you very much. Well, I presume that the task at hand is what we're about to do here is, since it is been passed by the state law and it has become law, we're just making a provision within our ordinances to indicate where these facilities could locate if approved by, is it the ABC or is it Medical Marijuana, which isn't that a subsidiary of ABC? Or have I got that all messed up?
Well, like I said, I didn't write it. But the Medical Marijuana Commission is charged with awarding the licenses and establishing regulations for those licenses. The Alcohol Beverage Control Division, ABCD, not Commission D, is in charge of enforcing their regulations, enforcing the amendment, and enforcing the MMC's regulations. The Department of Health is in charge of issuing the permits and determining the medical need. And that's probably something good to always remember. To get a legitimate card, you got to be real sick. You're talking about folks dying of cancer, myasthenia gravis, fibromyalgia, MS, MD, Crohn's disease. These are sick people. And, recreational use, sure, it's going to happen just like, kids get a hold of alcohol too. But it's medicine, and it has to be treated as such. So
I think you alluded to, but didn't say 100%, but you could prohibit it in this, but that is a local election to for better, lack of a better expression, a wet, dry vote.
Yeah, same process. You have to initiate it from the people.
Is that city by city type thing that they can?
City by city, a city can say, we don't want it in our town. They can initiate the vote and all that, and I just remembered when I was answering Commissioner Johnson's question. You know, I would expect, and this is what they're doing, they're coming to the mayors of these cities and they're saying, we'd like to locate here, we found a piece of property. Can we have your explicit approval to put to our letter, to put your letter to our application? So, you know, if a mayor says, and I know one mayor within rifle shot of here that said, I don't want you in my town, fine. They ain't going. They'll go somewhere else. So that's an important consideration. Same time, county judges. And then I'll give you an instance, for instance, some are very, very competitive in this thing. The city of Marion and Forest City, I understand, bought an old airport, World War II era type airport, and I may have the towns, but I know Forest City was one of them. And they just gave an outfit a pledge of 15 acres if they'll build their greenhouse facility there, free of charge, lease it to them for $1 a year for as long as they want it. So they're actively seeking those jobs. About 100 people will be employed in a fully functioning facility. About 10 of them will be six-figure jobs: chemist, chemical engineer, mechanical engineer, biologist, botanist / agronomist, marketing people, legal, and folks like that. So, like I said, this is pretty high-tone operation. We're at the point in the implementation of this, we are watching, and don't mind telling you, and have been authorized to say, law enforcement's watching to make sure we keep the mob out, because once they get in, it gets real difficult to get them out. So that's our objective at this point.
You mentioned different cities wanting this brought in. I believe I read in the Democratic Gazette here recently that the mayor of Fayetteville
Yes.
is actively saying, come on.
Yeah.
So,
And
because he's saying, because wants the tax base.
absolutely. Yeah, you're talking $7 to $10 million facility it's going to add. Mayflower would like to have a facility there. There's a couple of growers that are looking at some land and have land available. And they're going on record and saying, yeah, we support it if they get a permit. And you know, if you show up over there and asking for a license and saying, well, we really don't know where we're going to put it, you're not going to get it. So you got to have that locked down. That's part of the deal.
Plus, you also have the money locked down too.
It's amazing how much money just popped out of the walls out of this state. There's plenty of money.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Commissioners, any other questions?
May I be excused after you vote?
Sure.
Thank you for inviting me.
After we vote, there's nothing else on the agenda.
After we vote, we're all excused.
Pretty much. Commissioners, any further discussion or questions of either staff? Any comments? If not, I would entertain a motion, and what we were doing is entertaining a motion to recommend this to the city directors, and we're doing it is for both the definitions and the use regulations. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we send this on to the city council with a due pass recommendation, altering 94-1, adding definitions, and section 94-323, district use regulations.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed? Same sign. The motion carries. Gentlemen, thank you very much. That concludes our only item on our agenda. We've got some other stuff to do. Feel free to stay or feel free to depart.
Mr. Darius, when will this be on city council?
June 1st, no, it'd be the third Monday of June. 17th.
Thank you, sir.
All right, this time we'll go ahead and close.
Actually, I think it'll be the first Monday in June, just because,
I'm sorry, the 3rd of June.
5th.
5th of
It's
June.
June 5th.
What are you trying to do to me?
All right, at this time, we're going to close the public hearing
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
portion of the meeting and go straight into the liaison reports. Commissioner Johnson, you had May 1st.
Yes, sir. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't get on the calendar, which means I didn't attend, but I came to prep for this, and we did not have any business on the agenda. So I got lucky. Maybe somebody was smiling down, I'm not for sure.
Okay.
If I could have Lauren send me another agenda, I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I missed, but if you could send me another update, I'd appreciate that, so I can get it on my calendar.
Okay,
Yeah, the
May
list.
May 15th, Commissioner Green.
All right, there was a couple things that we had sent on to them. It was the first reading of ordinance 935, and that's talking about the amending the use in the industrial park for storage of ethanol and other hazardous, dangerous chemicals. So that was the first reading. First reading, ordinance 936, and this is a smoking ban on walking paths. And there was some discussion about it, so it may come back again as first reading because they may have taken some of the stuff out of it, because I think this first one had like smokeless tobacco, chewing tobacco, and all that other stuff. So I think they limited it down to just cigarette smoke. Resolution 2017-10, preliminary development at the Villa on River Point. Y'all may remember that. That did pass. Resolution 2017-11, talking about the internet vendor tax, which was a second. This is the second time it came up. It came up in another resolution. So anyway, they did something with that, but then this one did pass, and the first one that came up was 2017-09, so they had to discard that because they put it on the table or something like that. But anyway, 2017-12, authorizing the mayor to submit a grant to the state, and this has to do with the wastewater project that's for the city and benefiting low to moderate income people as in the Morgan community, but could benefit the city of Maumelle as well at a piece of, I think they said, a Fisher property maybe. And Resolution 2017-13, and it was the Community Development Block Grant for the North Maumelle Wastewater Project, and it passed.
Thank you, sir. Okay, for June. we
Mr.
have-
Chairman, if I may interject, and excuse me for interrupting, the council liaison dates in June are incorrect.
I know,
June 5th, not June 3rd.
June 19th.
June 19th, not June 17th.
But for the 5th, Commissioner Gershner. And on the 19th, Commissioner Ramsey. Okay. Is anything else come before this meeting tonight? If there is nothing else, I entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Is making a motion, we just all know what motion that is. There's like one rule in court, it's called the rule. Do you invoke the rule? You never explain what the rule is, but everyone knows what the rule is. The rule is all witnesses gonna testify.
No, it's just.
But it's just called the rule. I've never seen it written anywhere.
Jim?